You might want to sit down for this one, because what has unfolded inside the Burruss Tucker household is nothing short of a digital inferno, an emotional landslide that has social media tearing itself apart in real time. What began as a quiet, unsettling tension brewing just beneath the surface has erupted into a full-blown family implosion broadcasted across every corner of the internet. It started with whispers and speculation, the usual murmurs that follow any celebrity couple when trouble begins to seep through the cracks. But by the time Riley Burruss stepped into the spotlight with trembling fury, the quiet storm had become a thunderclap so loud that millions of people stopped what they were doing just to watch the chaos unfold. What people originally believed was simply a tragic ending to Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker's marriage suddenly transformed into a scandal, with layers so deep that even longtime fans were left speechless. And at the center of it all was one explosive accusation that no one saw coming. Riley didn't hint, she didn't imply, she didn't dance around her words. She pointed her finger directly, firmly, fiercely, straight at her stepsister, Kayla Tucker. She claimed, without hesitation, that Kayla was the reason her mother and Todd were getting divorced. And in that moment, the internet didn't just react, it detonated. Comment sections caught fire, live streams erupted with theories, fans from every social media platform flooded timelines with shock, anger, and confusion. Riley's words didn't sound like the emotional outburst of a teenager caught in a family storm. They sounded like the confession of someone who had carried a wound for years, a wound that had never been allowed to heal. She spoke with a voice that shook with rage, betrayal, and heartbreak, as though every syllable had been waiting for the exact moment to break free. And when she finally let those words out into the world, nothing about this story ever looked the same again. According to Riley, the tension between her and Kayla had been building for years. It wasn't a sudden blow-up. It wasn't the result of one heated argument. She described it as a constant presence, a low, humming hostility that lived in every room of their home. Every time Kayla walked in, the air shifted, the energy thickened, the friction became impossible to ignore. Riley claimed she had spent years trying to coexist in a blended family that never truly blended, a family where unresolved emotions and silent resentments created an environment that felt like a minefield waiting to ignite. She explained that the tension wasn't just interpersonal, it seeped into the marriage, into the family structure, into the emotional fabric of every person living under that roof. And when Riley finally broke her silence, she didn't tiptoe around her truth. She delivered it like a verdict carved in stone. Kayla is the reason my mother and Todd are getting divorced. The internet reacted instantly. People paused their day-to-day lives to analyze every second of Riley's rant. Reaction videos poured in. Numerous creators dissected her tone, her expressions, her history with Kayla. Some viewers sympathized deeply with Riley, hearing in her voice the kind of pain that can only come from watching your home collapse. Others questioned whether her anger had clouded her judgment. But regardless of which side anyone took, one thing became undeniable. Riley's accusation had changed everything. Then, Riley dropped a detail so shocking that it sent social media into another spiral of speculation. She claimed that only a month prior, Kayla had staged an emotional meltdown so dramatic that it ended with her being hospitalized. At first, no one knew how to process that. Hospitalized for what? How? Why? The public had never heard a single whisper about such an incident. But Riley insisted it was real, and even more disturbingly, she believed it was orchestrated. According to her, Kayla exaggerated a crisis to manipulate sympathy and attention, pulling Todd directly into her emotional orbit. Riley recounted how Todd rushed to Kayla's side, almost forgetting that his wife, Riley's own mother, was standing at home alone, already heartbroken by the marriage falling apart. For Riley, that hospital moment wasn't just dramatic, it was the turning point. It was the crack that split the family open. The moment where she felt Todd began to emotionally distance himself from Kandi. She described returning home to a father who seemed changed, colder, more withdrawn, as though something about that hospital visit had pulled him away from the marriage for good. Riley said that when Todd eventually told Kandi he wanted to leave, she knew. She knew without any doubt that Kayla had influenced his decision. To Riley, the divorce wasn't just a failed marriage, it was the result of manipulation, of emotional power, of a stepsister she believed had been pulling the strings behind the scenes for too long. But perhaps the most explosive detail of Riley's entire confession was the one that seemed to shock her the most. She claimed that when Kayla heard about the divorce, she smiled. Not a hesitant smile, not a confused or nervous smile, a genuine, pleased, satisfied smile, as though something she had been waiting for had finally come to pass. And that single claim sent the internet into a frenzy of theories. Some believed Riley fully and without question. Others wondered if the smile had been misunderstood. But the possibility alone was enough to ignite days of commentary. Riley spoke that detail with such hurt, such disbelief, that the internet couldn't look away. For her, the smile wasn't just a moment of rudeness. It was confirmation of everything she had feared. Kayla wasn't devastated. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't even neutral. She was happy. Riley then delivered the line that stopped the world cold. She will face the consequences of everything she has done. Suddenly, Riley wasn't just a hurt daughter. She became the narrator of her own emotional reckoning, and the world watched with bated breath. After pouring out every painful detail, Riley drew a boundary so harsh it felt like a door slamming inside the soul of the family. She announced that she would never speak to Kayla again. Not now, not later, not ever. There would be no reconciliation, no forgiveness, no attempt at understanding. She said very clearly that she did not want to ever see Kayla's face again. For millions of viewers, that moment hit harder than anything else she said. Because it wasn't emotional chaos. It wasn't heated fury. It was cold, final, permanent. Riley wasn't talking like a teenager having a bad day. She was talking like someone closing a chapter of her life forever and burning the pages behind her. That line marked the moment when people realized this wasn't a temporary rift between stepsisters. This was a permanent scar ripping through the Burruss Tucker family. As the fallout from Riley the revelation spread across the internet, all eyes turned to one man, Todd Tucker. And suddenly, Todd found himself in an impossible position. For years, he had tried to balance himself between two daughters who never fully accepted each other. Kayla was his biological daughter, Riley was the stepdaughter he helped raise. And now, the two were standing on opposite sides of an emotional battlefield, one he never saw coming. Social media began to demand answers. Where did Todd truly stand? Would he defend Kayla, the daughter he had always protected? Or would he acknowledge Riley's pain at the risk of fracturing his bond with Kayla? Every scenario looked catastrophic. Every choice looked like another emotional explosion waiting to go off. And Todd, who had always played the role of mediator, was now the center of the storm. Fans began digging into past episodes, old interviews, old interactions, trying to find clues about Todd's loyalties. Some argued he always seemed closer to Kayla. Others insisted he had loved Riley like his own. But with the divorce unfolding, the hospital incident looming in the background, and Kayla's alleged reaction to the divorce raising new questions, the public began to wonder whether Todd had been ignoring warning signs for years. Then came the twist. The moment that shocked even the most skeptical viewers. Sources close to the family claims that Kayla wasn't devastated by Riley's accusations. She wasn't upset. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't even embarrassed. Instead, she was celebrating. Celebrating a divorce. Celebrating the collapse of a marriage. Celebrating the exact moment Riley was having an emotional breakdown online. That detail changed everything. It turned what seemed like a feud into something that felt darker, deeper, more calculated. Was Kayla truly rejoicing? Was she relieved that Kandi was out of the picture? Was this something she had wanted all along? For fans who had watched the uneasy dynamic between Kayla and Kandi for years, everything suddenly began to make unsettling sense. The awkward interactions, the emotional walls, the decades-long tension. If Kayla had been waiting for the marriage to collapse, then Riley's accusations suddenly looked far less like emotional rambling and far more like carefully placed puzzle pieces lining up perfectly. Once Kayla's alleged reaction became public, the internet went into overdrive. People replayed old clips, analyzed facial expressions, examined interviews, and compared years of interactions between Kandi, Todd, Riley, and Kayla. Commentators debated whether Kayla had been misunderstood for years, or whether she had been pulling emotional strings behind the scenes. And as theories multiplied, so did the pressure on Todd Tucker, because now the public wasn't just asking whether Kayla had celebrated the divorce, they were asking whether Todd had allowed his daughter's influence to dismantle his marriage without realizing it. Or worse, whether he had seen it happening and ignored it. While emotions flared online, another storm brewed beneath the surface, one that could reshape the future of the entire family. The business empire, the old lady gang restaurants, the trucking company, the production ventures. These weren't just businesses, they were the backbone of the Burruss-Tucker partnership. And now, with the divorce looming and emotions running high, fans began asking whether Todd and Kandi could even work together professionally in the aftermath. Their empire had been built on unity, partnership, and trust, but now every piece of that foundation was cracking. And then there were the youngest children, Ace and Blaze, far too young to understand why their world felt like it was shaking apart, while Riley, older and outspoken, was choosing a side and speaking her truth. Ace and Blaze were simply trying to understand why the adults around them were hurting. As the dust begins to settle, the heartbreaking truth is becoming clear. This isn't just a divorce story. It's a family fracture, a rupture that may never fully heal. Riley's words didn't just expose tension. They exposed years of resentment, unresolved conflict, and emotional bruises that had never been addressed. Kayla's alleged celebration didn't just add insult to injury, it transformed a family feud into a public indictment of motives and intentions. Todd struggled to navigate the conflict didn't just show indecision. It revealed the impossible position he had been stuck in for years. And Kandi's heartbreak, that part barely needs explanation. She lost her marriage, she lost her sense of stability, and now she is watching her children stand on opposite sides of a battlefield she never imagined they'd have to walk through. However, the tension between Riley and Kayla has always existed, simmering quietly beneath the surface, but it appears to have reached a boiling point now. Riley didn't mince her words at all. She said, "Kayla is the reason my mom and Todd are getting divorced." Those words are heavy, not just because they are blunt, but because they carry the weight of years of hurt, frustration, and perceived betrayal. This is not some trivial family squabble. It is an emotional fracture that runs deep. Riley is holding Kayla accountable for the chaos that has disrupted their family, for the sense of betrayal Riley feels from her father siding with Kayla, and for the emotional upheaval that has rocked the household. It's a claim so bold, so public, that it has left fans across the internet divided and questioning what really happened behind closed doors. But Riley's accusations didn't stop at the divorce itself. She went on to reveal an incident that had remained under the radar until now, an event so shocking that it left the public stunned. According to Riley, just a month ago, Kayla created a massive drama that culminated in her own hospitalization. Yes, hospitalization. Riley claims this incident was entirely fabricated, a deliberate attempt by Kayla to stir chaos, draw attention, and manipulate the adults in the household. And it worked. Todd, instead of supporting Kandi, his wife at the time, allegedly sided with Kayla, leaving Riley feeling betrayed and abandoned. The idea of a father choosing a stepsister over the woman he once shared a life with is enough to spark outrage. And Riley's reaction was raw, emotional, and deeply personal. Imagine watching someone you've always trusted make a choice that feels like a betrayal on the most fundamental level. That's the emotional backdrop to Riley's public outburst, and it explains the intensity and pain behind her words. Riley didn't just focus on a single event. She painted a broader picture, explaining that Kayla's presence had consistently caused tension and drama in their household. She repeated it multiple times. Since Kayla came into this house, it's been nothing but problems. From Riley's perspective, every interaction, every argument, every subtle tension could be traced back to her stepsister. And she suggested that Kayla wasn't just accidentally causing problems, she was strategically manipulating situations to benefit herself, to the detriment of everyone else in the family. Riley even warned that Kayla's apparent happiness about the divorce would eventually backfire. She'll get what's coming to her, Riley said, making it clear that she believes karma is on its way and that Kayla's actions won't go unpunished. It's a powerful and chilling statement, one that frames Riley's anger as more than just emotional. It's a warning, a prediction, and a declaration all at once. Then came the moment that truly shocked viewers. Riley ended her rant with a definitive statement. She would never speak to Kayla again. "I'll never see her face again," she said. Those words were not just an expression of anger, they were a complete severing of ties, a public announcement that reconciliation is off the table. The damage, Riley implied, is permanent. What started as a sibling feud has now become a declaration of war in the public eye. Riley wasn't only calling out Kayla, she was also pointing a finger at her father, Todd, for allegedly choosing his stepsister over his wife, and, by extension, over the stability of their family. This moment is seismic, not just within the family, but for fans watching every detail unfold. Now, all eyes turn to Todd. How does he navigate this impossible situation? He is caught squarely between his daughter Kayla, who seems unbothered by Riley's accusations, and his ex-wife Kandi, whose marriage has now ended publicly under a storm of controversy. Can he continue to support Kayla after Riley's explosive statements? Will he finally take a stand for Kandi, or try to maintain a delicate neutrality? Todd's every move is now under scrutiny, and the decisions he makes in the coming weeks could determine whether the family ever finds a semblance of peace, or whether this drama escalates even further. And then there's Kayla. Sources reveal that rather than reacting with anger or defensiveness, she seemed strangely unbothered. In fact, some reports suggest she was quietly celebrating. While Riley's accusations were heavy and public, Kayla appeared to be taking a very different approach, almost reveling in the collapse of Todd and Kandi's marriage. But why would anyone celebrate such a deeply personal and painful event? Some fans believe it could be relief, the end of years of tension and conflict between Kayla and Kandi. Others suggest a more calculated motive, that Kayla may have wanted this outcome all along, consciously or unconsciously. Whatever the reason, her reaction has only intensified the emotional complexity of the situation and further complicated Todd's already difficult position. This isn't just sibling rivalry or parental conflict anymore. With Riley publicly accusing Kayla of destroying her family and Kayla seemingly celebrating, the entire family structure has been disrupted. Todd, who spent years trying to balance relationships and maintain peace between his daughters, now faces one of the hardest choices imaginable. Can he continue to support Kayla while repairing the bond with Riley? Can he reconcile with Kandi while navigating the fallout from public accusations? The stakes are enormous, and every decision he makes will carry weighty emotional consequences for the entire family. The impact isn't limited to emotions, it extends to practical matters as well. Kandi and Todd built a thriving business empire together, including the Old Lady Gang restaurant and a successful trucking operation, among other ventures. These projects were a symbol of their partnership, but now, with their personal lives unraveling publicly, can these businesses survive? Can Kandi and Todd continue working together, or will their professional partnership implode under the weight of the divorce and ongoing family drama? And what about the children? Ace, Blaze, Riley, and Kayla. Their lives are being turned upside down as cameras and social media audiences watch every move, leaving them to navigate a family dynamic that has shifted dramatically in a very short time. Riley's public statements have left an indelible mark. Her refusal to ever speak to Kayla again has created a permanent rift in their relationship. It's not just emotional, it's a public declaration that the family is fractured, and it may never be the same. Kayla, meanwhile, is facing scrutiny from the public and media alike. The question remains, Will she continue to celebrate, or will the weight of Riley's accusations eventually force her to confront the consequences of her actions? Fans and tabloids are speculating, dividing into camps, those who sympathize with Riley's pain, and those who view Kayla as simply a product of a complex family dynamic. At the heart of all this is Todd, trying to navigate relationships with both daughters while managing his own feelings and the fallout of the divorce. Kandi, meanwhile, is focused on moving forward, protecting her children and maintaining her professional success. But the questions remain. Can fractured relationships ever truly be repaired? Can Todd maintain a meaningful connection with both daughters without escalating tensions further? And will Riley ever forgive Kayla? Or is this truly the end? The Burruss-Tucker family drama is far from over. Riley's accusations, Kayla's controversial reactions, and Todd's impossible position have created a situation that will continue to unfold for weeks, months, and possibly even years. This is about more than just a divorce. It's about family loyalty, love, betrayal, and the struggle to rebuild relationships in the public eye. The stakes are high, the emotions are raw, and the world is watching. The public is watching closely. Fans are debating fiercely. The media is analyzing every angle. But behind the cameras, behind the headlines, behind the social media noise, this is a family trying to survive an emotional earthquake none of them were prepared for. The road ahead is long, the wounds are deep, and the fallout has only just begun.